So welcome back to Lunch Hour Legal Marketing. We are here with Jose and Ira. Ira and I actually ran into each other at breakfast today. You guys work with Lawbox, described to me as a pre-MSO. We've talked about a lot about the MSO. A lot of our previous episodes have been covering the MSO work that Vista is doing. What's a pre-MSO?
So we're like an MSO as a service. So Lawbox, what we do is that we're the operating tech stack and operational structure for personal injury firms. So we manage the cases from the moment it's signed all the way to demand prep. So we do all the grunt work in between, whether it's client communication, setting them up for treatment, requesting the records, police reports, all that. We package it and then we get it ready for demand with the attorney. So this is very useful in the pre-MSO side where we get to live in the firm and operate the cases. And so people like Ira's side of the business, they get to actually see what we're touching and how the firm looks on the inside.
It's awesome. So is that tech and people, or is it, talk to us about that? Like, it sounds like maybe a staff augmentation.
Yeah, it's a human in the loop. We use a lot of proprietary tech internally, and then we also use a lot of products that are out in the market. So like the way my partner says is that there's a lot of vendors out there selling different parts of a car, hubcaps, wheels, everything. We come to you with a full built car and we put a driver in it. So that way you're getting everything ready and we're moving at your speed, and we also operate within your firm, so we don't deal with any of the UPL issues.
Interesting.
And have you seen, is this primarily a improvement to the bottom line or an improvement to growth?
It's a combination of both, because another part of the ecosystem that we are involved in is helping a firm with marketing. So we can introduce you to firms that will help source cases for you. So it's a top line and a bottom line enhancement. For the
All right, that's awesome. It's a softball across the plate for us.
Yes.
Where do most firms blow marketing?
So Jose has more insight into this as he's the day-to-day, but you're just seeing firms spend a ton of money and not keep track of what they're spending and tying the results to that acquisition cost of the case. And when we're here in this conference, that's what a lot of the law firms that we're talking to are saying, that they don't have their KPIs to know how effective their spend is.
Conrad, have you ever heard of that problem before?
Welcome to my world.
Yes.
All right, so what KPIs should we be looking at? So you're a firm, you're growing, you're interested in making yourself attractive from an MSO perspective.
Yeah.
Right. What KPIs are we looking at? Marketing KPIs.
On the marketing KPIs. So your conversion, how much you're converting as far as the intake, because I before Lawbox I was running law firms in LA. So one of the big ones is that they don't know where they're putting the money in the marketing. They're just like, we're throwing money out there, maybe something catches. The other thing, intake department, they're not putting everything in the right CRM. So FileVine and like lead docket are super helpful, but a lot of times they're just putting it in an Excel sheet. They don't even know what happens.
Okay.
And then how much you're spending on those leads.
So you talked about tech stack. You're a FileVine, lead docket.
I've used them all.
You use them all.
Yeah,
okay.
yeah.
Are you platform agnostic?
Yeah, that was what I
Yeah,
was getting.
yeah. So when we go into a firm with Lawbox, our case managers and our staff are knowledgeable in all the tech stacks. And if there's a tech stack out there that we don't know, but we're coming to that firm, we learn it before we get there.
Advice to law firms that are kind of walking down this path. What makes them attractive, or what are some of the bigger mistakes that they're making?
Biggest mistakes is that they're not putting the resources in the areas they're not the best at. So lawyers are good at being lawyers. On the business side, I've seen it fail a lot because they're trying to focus a lot on the lawyering, getting the cases done, but then they neglect the business, so they can't grow. Sometimes it goes the other way, where they're like, hey, now I need to focus on scaling the business. Cases fail because they're not focused on the cases. So making sure that before we come there, or maybe this is the job that we do when we come in there, is that we're there to help you focus on lawyering, and then we can handle the business side of it.
And to that point, so Jose and his team will go into a law firm and they'll put them on the right path, and then from our side, on the private equity side of our business, that helps us determine, is this a firm we want to partner with? And, we're not looking to acquire, we're looking to partner, which was some of the big messages that we've heard today at the conference.
Yeah, I mean, so that's interesting. I mean, how much of that is semantics and how much of that is like really genuine? So like PE has this awful reputation.
What?
It's shocking.
Only in your mind.
So like, what is that like? get behind that partner as opposed to acquisition, what does that look like, and how does that really look?
Listen, I think there's two different models that we're seeing out there. There's the Morgan and Morgan model, where they go and they acquire your firm and you become part of Morgan Morgan. And then, as we heard today, there's the other model where you keep, even though we're paying for your NIL, you still keep your brand. That's who you are. That's who you are in your market. We're not trying to take you over. We're just trying to make you institutionalized, to Jose's point on a part of the business that you're not the strongest in.
So I wrote down the quote about Morgan & Morgan. It was, Morgan & Morgan are ankle biters that are at best getting 10% of the market. I think that was direct from the stage today. Interesting to have that perspective on a big brand. Mm-hmm. And there was a lot of discussion about brand. How do you guys think about brand from a valuation perspective?
Listen, it's part of the picture, right? Like it's, as the gentleman this morning said, you're looking now because this is an interesting and unique time, right? You're not 10 years into this. There's not a ton of these MSO roll-ups, so you want to buy the 1 and 2 in the segments that you're focused on, because to their point, no one's calling number 3 on the Google, because whether you believe it or not, you think the first 1 or 2 from SEO, they're the top firms. It may have nothing to do with it, but according to SEO, that's how you're ranked. So there's 100% importance to name recognition. But then, you go back to our conversation we had this morning at breakfast.
Right.
How many individuals choose a firm based on that name recognition? I think that you quoted me was 56%.
59% can't name a brand, a single law firm in a market. That is Joe population, right? And Gyi and I talk about the importance of brand all the time. There's been a big focus on brand here. You guys are talking about maintaining the brand. So we say brand. You're clearly seeing huge value in that brand recognition. Do you know if anyone is doing any unaided brand awareness testing or research prior to making some of these acquisitions? Is that part of the process?
I would assume that private equity firms, that goes into what they're doing, right? Because that goes to who's the number 1 or 2 in the market.
I don't know that
I would
they
have
are.
to assume that.
I would assume that they are too, but
yeah.
I also know my bias is they don't necessarily know the legal market all that well, right? No. And they certainly don't represent typical Joe consumer of legal services.
Right.
No, and I'm curious to talk more about, because I'm kind of dense, and so I want to clarify a couple things. Your target firm, like the firms that do great partners for you, like what do they look like? Are they always the top, like the same things, like the top brands, or can you be, you've got a decent brand, but maybe you're a middle player in the market? Tell me a little bit more about like what you guys are looking for specifically. Is it complete overlap, or is there a difference in the firms that you guys look at?
I'll speak on the Lawbox side first. So we are on the operational side. So we work with all sizes. We have firms that are doing 300 cases a month, and we have some that are doing 10 a month. For us, our priority is moving cases. Time on desk and client communication are our biggest metrics. We have our own proprietary dashboards where we show the firms when was the last time the client was communicated with, and then how long the case has been in a certain phase. So those are the 2 biggest metrics that we follow for firms, and we show them how we do it so that they know what's going on in the case. So to your question, like all sizes, we're agnostic on the size of the firm.
And then the other thing that comes up a lot, because you're very embedded with the firm, you've got access to like deep firm data. How do you navigate like conflicts and exclusivity? Like when you work with like 20 firms that do PI in downtown Chicago, how's that work?
Yeah, because our focus is we're not there to compete with the other firms. We're there as support. So it's just like these companies who hire virtual assistants, like the virtual assistants are just there to work. Right. My job there is just to make sure that the client's happy, the client firm, and also the client, making sure they're both happy with the case.
And you're not sharing data across?
Absolutely not. Yeah. No. So we operate as if we're in that ecosystem, so that we're not there to leak information and work with anybody else now.
And then from our side, which is what we're looking at, we do care. We're not looking to do 20 firms in Chicago as part of a roll-up strategy. We'll start with 1 firm and we'll see, is there other complementary firms that make sense to add? But the biggest thing is really culture, right? Like, can you culturally fit? Because you're taking folks who are used to running their business their way and saying, we're still going to let you run it your way, kind of.
That kind of part, that's what I was struggling in there, because it was they literally said, we're not a McDonald's franchise where everyone's going to make the burger the same way, and you can keep your matter management software.
The problem is that when they're like, we know how to make the burger better, and you're just
That's
like,
right.
no, we're doing it our way.
And it was, and also, if you're number 1 or 2 in the market, the likelihood that you are a humble person wanting to make changes is close to zero, right? That's a hard line to navigate.
Yeah. Listen, I think, and they hit the nail on the head. It's all about value proposition, right?
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, you are rolling over a significant portion of your buyout. And on top of it, you probably have some sort of earnout structure over the next 3 to 5 years that's built into that. So, again, to your point, how easy is it to get past ego? I can't answer that. It's on an individual by individual basis, but I would hope that they would say, if we show you the value prop of, you used to make X, but if you use what we have in place, you can make X plus 20%, it should be a no-brainer.
Right. Here's one that comes up a lot for us is, there's kind of like these different type, we call them, maybe there's a better way to say this, but I'm just going to say there's like these different types of law firm brands. Some of them are very like the identity of the lawyer driven, right? So that their name, I think Chad's an example of that. Like his face, I joked about it in there, but his face is key to that brand. And then other firms like that are trade names, the lawyers themselves. Does that matter to you from a valuation standpoint? Because again, Chad is Chad. If Chad decides tomorrow, I'm done with this stuff, you can still license. I'm sure they have some licensing deals with that. But anyway, does it matter to you if it's like the identity of the firm is tied up to the lawyer versus a trade name in terms of like value of the brand?
I mean, specifically, I think, if Chad decided to leave tomorrow, Chad would leave a lot of money on the table. Right. And I think that's part of what that's been negotiated. Again, I don't know what their deal structure is, but there's a huge financial incentive to stay, right? Because that 30%, they did the math, on $1 million, 300,000 can turn to 1.5 million in 5 years from now. Are you willing to leave that on the table?
Right. Yeah, it's an interesting thing because, I think there's a lot of firms out there, let's face it, they're feeling a lot of pressure, right? We've got national players, we've got consolidations that are related to PE or MSOs, we've got MSOs and private equity. You've got macro factors like, especially in motor vehicle accidents, crash avoidance and potentially, we've been talking about it now for maybe 20 years, but autonomous vehicles and all this kind of stuff. And so if you're just thinking about the lawyers, I'm a 2 or 3 in my market, but I'm getting tired and I don't want to do this anymore. And one of the things that Tim talks about is this is a good exit strategy for you, right? You want to get out. And I just think it's an interesting concept because I think the firms, that to your point, where the brand's tied up and you're incentivized to stay, that might not be the same as it might be if you were operating under a logo or a firm where that can persist even if you're like, I'm going to take cash now.
Right. Listen, I think there's different structures that are going to start to emerge in the marketplace. Some might be made public, some won't be made public. But my guess is, to your point, if you're looking at that lawyer who's looking to transition out and not want to stay and build to the next, it's going to obviously affect the valuation they receive, right? Because part of this is you're going to work hard, not just for you, but for us, the collective us, to build something bigger and better to eventually make that much more money when it really comes time to move on. So I think everything is a question of valuation.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think another thing too that's interesting is I think I was aware of, but I think that a lot of people in the market aren't. This isn't the first MSO deal, right? There have been a lot of MSO deals that have kind of been more under the radar. Any thoughts on that? I know everybody's make their own decision of whether to publicize or do it under the radar, but in your experience, this has been going on before this. Any comment about the differences in that, if that's going to be a trending in a different direction now that this deal's been more public?
Yeah, I mean,
well, that ethics attorney right now is when we're in there saying that the first time he saw it was in 2006.
2006?
Yeah, and then he saw it again in 2013. So before I was even in the legal industry, this was already going on. And then he was saying as well, this has been going on in the accounting, medical, and other areas. But yeah, this has been a sleeper for a while, and he said this triggered it. This was triggered, this massive influx of all this because of the Arizona ABS rules. So then he said it was just a lot of people getting smarter on ways to think of how money can come in and not have to deal with the ABS model and just be stuck in like a little sandbox in Arizona, right? How can we go nationally?
The other thing that we keep bringing up, and we touched on it a little bit, but I'd really like to get your thoughts, even a little deeper. We talked about brand, but what are other things that you see well-run firms doing? Like, what is the formula for running a successful law firm?
All operations, having your workflows, having the staff that are knowledgeable in the right areas, case managers, making sure that they're, one, keeping the client happy. Like we joke about it when you're in the firm, is like clients care more about their car than their injuries sometimes, because they live from their cars, right? And they get them to work and all that stuff. But operations, making sure that you have protocols on how to move your cases. You have a good oversight as far as the managing attorney, that he's not running razor thin where he's running litigation and pre-lit. You know, making sure that, honestly, operations is the biggest one.
And what's your perspective on AI in the operational context? Are you on some of these AI platforms, your proprietary AI stuff?
Yeah, know what you're playing with and what you're using. Don't just get distracted by the shiny tools out there in the market.
What?
Yeah.
There's no shiny tools.
Yeah.
Come on.
So like with us, like not only do we build our own proprietary stuff, but we vet like crazy all the vendors out there. So to make sure, one, if they're going to be a good partner with us, or two, it's like, hey, you know what? We're better off building this ourselves, because there's so much money being put out there on the tech side that it's all put into marketing. You know, and then you're playing with it and you're using it, and you're like, this is not really like, it's just a wrap. You know, it's just.
Tell us what that is.
It's a ChatGPT with a logo around it. You know, you're pretty much using ChatGPT again. But there's a lot of good vendors out there.
You mean like an audit of your website done by ChatGPT that has someone else's logo on it? Is that what you're referring to?
No, more like the actual tech itself. It's if you were to type it in one and type it in the other, it will spit out the same. It looks identical. But there's a lot of good vendors out there that have really put in the time, and they're very useful. So like us, we use a lot of proprietary tech in records collections and drafting documents, communicating with the clients. So for everybody out there, it's really study what you're going to be using. I know bandwidth is limited with attorneys. They don't have the time to learn it. That's another difficult part. But in your free time, research it, talk to people who's actually used it, and get real, like a real criticism and critique from colleagues.
That's huge. Like double check with your peers, see what they're using. You know, and that goes above and beyond just the law market. It's just everything historically. Like find someone who uses it.
Yeah.
You know, and obviously, you know, you can always get references, but they're never going to give you the references for people that are unhappy, right?
References are garbage.
Yes.
Let's be honest.
Find your own references.
Yeah.
There's enough chat rooms and things that people are part of to say, hey, has anyone ever used XYZ? Looking for, you know, an unfettered opinion of it.
Absolutely.
All right, everyone. Well, thank you for joining us at Lunch Hour Legal Marketing. Thanks for joining us, Jose.
Well, thank you for joining us today. Jose, if people want to learn more about what you're up to, what's the best way to get a hold of you?
Website, we have getlawbox.com, and then I can give you guys contact information. That way you can put that up on there. But yeah, www.getlawbox.com. That'll be for anything you need on the operation side.
Awesome. Ira, do you want anybody to contact you?
Yeah, sure. So you can either go to www.simpleciti.com, so it's SimpleCiti.com, or we can also give you guys information for my contact too as well.
Awesome. Thanks so much for joining us.
Thanks,
Thank
guys.
you for having us.